It's funny, isn't it, sometimes, how on paper, sometimes the better car isn't the better car, if that makes any kind of sense. You know what it's like. You wait for one Volkswagen Automotive Group performance car to turn up, and you get two at once. To my left-hand side, I'm joined by the brand new 4th generation Audi S3 Sportback, and to my right-hand side, I'm joined by the equally brand new Cupra Formentor. And today, I'm doing a twin test. Well, I know they're not comparable as such. Yes, this is a hot hatch, this is a performance crossover, but there is method to my madness. Underneath, they share the same running gear. So these are essentially the same car, but with different bodies and different interiors, and of course, different approaches. So how do they compare? Well, let's find out. Both cars make use of a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, which offers 310 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, that is 295. There are some differences though, albeit quite minor. In the S3, it will take 4.8 seconds to hit 62 miles per hour, and of course, as you would expect, the top speed is limited to 155 miles per hour. Whereas in the Cupra, because it is heavier, it will take 4.9 seconds to hit 62 miles per hour. So it is a little bit slower, although that's only 0.1 of a second. Are you really going to notice that? I don't think so. Of course, as you would expect, again in this car, the top speed is limited to 155. Both cars also have a 7-speed DSG, although of course in the Audi they call it the S Tronic, and you also get a haldex setup as well. Now, of course, it is impossible for me to drive two cars at once, so I need some assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, Rory Reid was busy, so yeah, I've got no assistance. Oi, you. Yeah,
me?
There's no one behind you. I'm clearly pointing at you. Come here, come here.
Fancy seeing you here. I was just in the area, fancied a walk.
Oh, you came all the way down for Essex for a walk?
Yeah,
well,
why not?
That's a commitment.
Why not?
Ladies and gentlemen, instead I present to you my my first choice, PocketRockets.
Oh.
So he's got his own channel, so feel free to check it out, please do so. So yeah, you are going to be my adjudicator for today's test.
I've definitely had worse days.
I bet you have. Look at the weather, it's glorious. And look at these two fine beasts of cars.
Well, I've had plenty of time to bring the weather. I've walked all the way here.
What, do you have it in your pocket?
Yes, I definitely did.
Just
But yeah, I'm very excited because I'm an outsider to this video today because I've not had much time with these cars. In fact, I've had about 10 minutes, whereas Aaron has had pretty much all week. Yeah, very excited. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
No worries, thank you for joining me. Shall we get into the job at hand?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, let's
There's
do
no
that.
point sitting around here.
Actually, that brings me on to a very important question. Which weapon would Sir like?
I think I'll go for the Audi. Thank you very much.
No worries, right. This should be a good one.
Yes.
Oh, this makes a good noise. Okay, some of it may be thanks to audio trickery, but you know what? I don't mind that because it sounds superb. The first things that strike me about the Cupra Formentor, well, I say the first things, I've had this car for a few days now, but I love how responsive it is. You look at the size of this car itself weighs around 16.5 kilograms, so it is far from a featherweight, but it can really get a shift on. It's a really responsive car. The 7-speed DSG can be a little bit dim-witted around town or at slower speeds, but once you get it out on the open road, it performs pretty well. Of course, you've got the choice of the paddles, so flip it down. Woohoo! Now, if you turned up to the school run in this car, I think you'd be a bit of a legend.
So yes, the S3. It's a nice treat today to be driving not one, but two cars. And I decided to pick the S3 first. Main reason is that I prefer hatchbacks. And this, of course, is a hatchback. Yes, the Formentor is an SUV, and you probably don't, if you know me well, because obviously we're on carb session, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of SUVs. But the short time I've had in both cars, the Formentor does impress me. But enough of the Formentor for now. The S3 is where we're at. And first impressions, because again today I'm only going to have a short time with the car, but first impressions, it is a lovely car. And that's more being the handling for me. The handling is absolutely sublime, mainly because this is on 18-inch alloys. Yes, to me the alloys don't really fit well with the car. They just make it look like a bog standard A3, but the trade-off for it is it improves the ride. Also, Audi have actually fitted this with some Eagle F1s, and I'm a big fan of it, and I've actually converted Aaron to like them as well. And actually I'm going to confirm that right now, because we've got walkie-talkies. The carb session budget has apparently gone up. He's splashed out on some fancy equipment. Hello Aaron, how are you getting on?
This car, as standard, comes with adaptive dampers. It has the Volkswagen Automotive Group's dynamic chassis control, which, to put it into plain English, means you get adaptive dampers. Oh, that's my colleague. Hello.
Have I interrupted you when you were filming on camera?
Yeah, it's all good, mate. What can I do for you, good sir?
I was just talking to the ladies and gentlemen about the tyres on the Audi, because they actually use Goodyear Eagle F1s, and you know that they're like my favourite tyre, and I was just telling the viewers that I've converted you also.
Yes, that is correct. The S3 does wear Goodyear Eagle F1 tyres, which are very good, and I do have them on my Leon Cupra. They are good tyres, but I'm still quite a big fan of Michelin. Actually, that brings me on to a nice topic. Goodbye, Chris. That brings me on to quite a good topic. The S3 is wearing Goodyear Eagle F1 tyres, whereas this is wearing Bridgestone Turanzas. The grip in this car is pretty impressive. Of course, this car's got the 4-drive system, so it's got a haldex system. Oh, hello, some interference on the radio. Turn that down. This has got a haldex system, all-wheel drive. Therefore, there is a very good grip in the corners, which is just as well, because yesterday I filmed this in the pouring rain, but I still had the confidence to really push on when needed. Yes, anyway, back to the dampers. Oh, blimey, Chris almost just wiped out a pigeon. This has got adaptive dampers, so if I were to put it into comfort, for example, not that I really want to, but just for the purpose of testing, all of a sudden the car transforms itself and you get something that seems almost docile by nature. You could almost be fooled into thinking that you're just driving a standard Seat. Oh, speaking of Seats, Cupra estate, lovely stuff. And in comfort, all of a sudden, you've got a car that if you just stepped into it, you probably wouldn't realise the sporting potential it has. So the breadth of ability of this car is pretty astounding. You've also got an off-road function if you should desire it, although I doubt you'd want to take this off-road, but it's there if you need it. You've also got individual, and you've got sport and Cupra. You've got a button on the steering wheel, which you can get to the driving modes, which is just as well, because this infotainment system, this 12.3-inch screen, whilst it is very nice, it is borderline infuriating to use, because it's quite a cluttered system.
This engine, for me, I love it, and I've actually had the experience of driving a few cars that use this EA 888 engine. It's been going around for quite some time now, I'd say a good 10 years plus, and in this it is still as good as I remember it from the last time I experienced it. Yeah, this is just a lovely car, really. Inside, of course, is an Audi. Audi love an interior, I really do, and they've made it no exception in this car. For me, the infotainment system, on the other hand, is a bit of, I wouldn't say an eyesore, it's a lovely thing to look at. The Cupra has probably got a nicer infotainment system, but it's just everything you've got access, you have to access it through the infotainment system. There are a few more buttons in here than in the Cupra, but just for me it's just not enough, and for concentrating on driving it really takes your concentration away. It really does.
The steering is nice and direct, it's well weighted. Of course, with this being a crossover, you have a better view of the road, you're sat higher up, although it doesn't feel like I've got my head in the heavens. Of course, you can jack the seat up. As standard, the driver's seat is electronically adjustable, and there's 3 memory functions, which is quite handy. One would argue you may not need 3, but hey, you never know. By the way, guys, if you don't know, I now have my own line of merch, so if you want to check out this t-shirt plus others, be sure to head over to controlandshift.com, bag yourself a nice t-shirt in time for summer. I will of course put a link in the video description below. Sorry, Chris, stuck behind a very, very slow moving motorcyclist. Oh, the way how this thing corners is really impressive. With it being a crossover, yes, you do get a bit of roll in the corners, but it's well controlled, and the car doesn't feel like it wants to flop over onto its door handles.
So I'll tell you what, that Cupra behind me, I've got Aaron behind me now, he's managed to catch up, is a lovely thing to look at. I would never get bored of looking at that car. The colour is a bit questionable. I probably would have had a different colour than silver, but hey, yeah, it's definitely a looker. This, on the other hand, isn't, I'm afraid. I find it very boring. It's sort of looks like the previous generation, and Audi have just done some updates to it. And from a distance, especially with these 18-inch wheels, you would actually think that this is just a normal A3. And yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Of course, Audi do offer RS products. The RS3 is yet to be released. It has been announced, but again, this is still a performance car, so you want some sort of looks to it, aggressive looks as such, and you just don't get it. You really don't.
The S3, it isn't a bad looking car. I think it looks quite smart, but on the road it does look maybe a little bit boring. Is that harsh? I think if that car were finished in this urban silver, you may walk past it not even realising it is an S3, whereas the Cupra Formentor, I think it's a really bold, interesting, unique looking car. Out of the two cars, the Formentor has definitely turned more heads. The interior is equally bold and interesting, although I can't make my mind up whether I like this petrol blue theme. It's quite bold, blue leather. It's quite a bold choice, isn't it?
Let's see if we can invite Aaron back into the mix. Mr. Car Obsession, can you hear me?
Chris from Pocket Rockets, I can hear you, loud and clear like a bell. End.
I was just speaking to the ladies and gentlemen about why I'm in front and you're not.
Because you left before me, and that's simple logistics and physics.
Yes, it is indeed, but you seem to forget that I'm not from these neck of the woods.
Right, so why have you not pulled over then, considering I know where I'm going and you don't?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing, but I don't have an opportunity to. Oh no, I've just gone past one. Oh no. I'll pull over here. Go in front, 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 go in front.
Oh, that's such a better view.
You get to see my nice, pretty pert bum.
No, I don't want to see yours. Yours is hairy. Well, I think anyway.
Oh, do you know?
So, of course, being in an Audi S product, you obviously get driving modes, and I'm in dynamic, which is the most sportiest of settings. You can obviously choose individual. For me, I'm just in dynamic at the minute. And on this rather weird gear lever, which I cannot stand, I do not understand it, with a click down you can then put the gearbox into its more sportier setting. It'd just be nice for a little bit more character. I've got it basically in its sportier settings that you can possibly put it in, and it just, yeah, it doesn't really excite too much. but it just feels like there's no drama in here. It needs some character. It's trying to be too serious for what it is. If it was just the normal A3, then I'd understand, but it's not. And the money you're paying, you want some character to it.
In regard to price, this car is actually more expensive compared to the S3, but you do get more as standard, and this is of course a bigger car. Just pop it back into the sports mode on the DSG. So this would normally start from £39,870, although this one is £40,555 because of the urban silver paintwork and the extended safety pack. The S3, on the other hand, would start from £36,805, but that one behind me has been peppered with a few options, so it is actually £43,281, which isn't too far off the S3 Vorsprung, which is the range-topping model, which gives you more goodies.
I'm just talking to the ladies and gentlemen about the price of these cars, and usually for me, I would buy the cheaper car only if it was better, but in this case, I feel that the S3 just does everything a tad better, but it's a lot more money. What would you have over? Would you have the Cupra or would you have the S3?
Well, that is an alarming coincidence, because I was also talking about the price, so great minds think alike. Difficult one. The S3 is the cheaper car, but by the time you've spec'd it up to match this specification, it would be more money, and you're getting less practicality. So when you put it like that, and I would argue this is the more interesting car, for me it's almost a no-brainer. I think when it comes to money, I'd have this.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but if you want like a driver's car and you're not really getting from A to B is like an afterthought, you're surely going to have the S3 over the Cupra.
That, good sir, is something I will save for the conclusion. You don't want to peak too soon.
Oh, okay, he's telling me off now. But yeah, so Aaron's made a good point, because with the Cupra you're getting a cheaper car and you're getting a lot more of it because it is a bigger car. The boot in this is 100 litres less, give or take, than the Formentor. And again, you get more space in the back. And in the rear of this, we tested out earlier, bearing in mind Aaron is like Green Giant and I'm a midget, the rear space in this is actually pretty impressive. I'm impressed. The rear space in this is, well, I'm not obviously sitting in the rear at the minute because that would be quite alarming and impossible for me to be driving at the same time. But the rear space in this, considering it's a hatchback, is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. I thought it'd be quite cramped, but no.
Especially for you, being the Green Giant and all.
I like this car, and for me, as A fan of Cupra, and B, a family man, this car is very, very appealing. Because to have this performance in a body shape that's this practical, it just makes sense. Yes, I know crossovers aren't the most popular amongst petrol heads, but if you do happen to have a small family, then this, in my opinion, is the better bet compared to the S3. Speaking of which, I'm about to jump in that right now. One thing I will say is, whilst the interior isn't bad in here, because Audi certainly know how to do an interior, it feels a little bit bland compared to the Cupra. It hasn't got the same kind of sense of occasion. It's all a bit reserved. Hopefully the power isn't. Right, let's give it a go. No, that's not reserved at all. No, that is far from reserved. This car, give or take, is about 150 kilograms lighter, and you can definitely sense that as soon as you get in the car. Of course, it's lower and smaller, so you have a lower centre of gravity. You can definitely chuck it into corners a bit more, and it corners, the cornering is flatter as well.
Straight away you feel that this is yeah, the ride's a little bit more aggressive. And the beauty with the Formentor is that this has got adaptive suspension, so it works differently in each driving mode. But straight away, this is the much heavier car. Even though 150 kilos, Aaron will put it on the screen how much difference it is between these cars. You definitely feel it, you really do. But one thing that's exactly the same is this throttle response. The way this thing picks up, and the way it goes, it really does. And I'm already starting to regret the fact that I said I'd have the S3 over this. But the reason I said that more is because of this being an SUV. And I know most of you guys think I have some hatred towards SUVs, and I really don't.
Now, one thing I do find surprising, the engine note is a bit more subdued in here, and everything is set to maximum attack, and you do get a bit of noise, but it's not as boisterous as the Cupra, which is a little bit disappointing. The ride is firmer as well because this doesn't have adaptive dampers. These are passive, so it doesn't matter which driving mode I have it in, they remain the same. However, that isn't to say that this is uncomfortable, because it isn't. In isolation, the S3 is a comfortable car, more so compared to the A3 S-Line I had earlier this year.
So I've just put the gearbox into Sport, which you can do the same thing in the S3. And everything straight away, in general, is more dramatic. All the gear drops, when you drop the gears, when you go up gears, you hear overruns, you hear pops, you hear it blipping. It's just so more dramatic, and I love it. I really do. So we're now in manual mode. So I have full control. One thing that bugs me straight away is the distance of these paddles. It's almost like they've designed the paddle distance for salad fingers, because they're miles away and my tiny little hands can't reach them. I should have left my fingernails, I shouldn't have cut them, because then I would have been able to reach. You can certainly notice the difference in cornering. This is a lot more body rolly, if that's a word.
Hit some corners, on the brakes hard. The brakes definitely feel sharper in this car, that's for certain. They inspire more confidence, as do the Goodyear Eagle F1 tyres. That's not to say the Bridgestones aren't good, it's just these are better. There's no two ways about it. I'd say the S Tronic gearbox is slicker in this car as well.
Just how this looks, it wins in all arguments. It just wins how this thing looks. And that's one thing that I really do like about this particular SUV, is that Cupra haven't just taken a body shell from Seat like an Ateca, added some bits of trim and then called it a Formentor. This thing is a one-off. They've created it from scratch. Yes, of course it uses all the engine and drivetrain stuff, but from the ground up, this is brand spanking new.
In all honesty, in regard to the steering, I can't detect a great deal of difference. This feels a little bit heavier to me though, and I'd say it's a bit more direct. So, actually, having said that, maybe there is a clearer difference in the steering when you actually concentrate and think about it.
So mate, since I've been driving this Formentor around, I do notice that it does get a look.
Yeah, well, it's a good looking car.
Sorry mate, the radio broke up. Did you say good looking? Did you say I was good looking?
No, I definitely didn't say that, no. You and good looking don't normally form in the same sentence.
Two can talk, mate.
I don't know what you mean, mate. I'm practically a Greek Adonis compared to you.
Alright mate, you keep telling yourself that.
I must admit, you look... Sorry, no. The car looks very good in my rear view mirror. I almost want to look at that more than the road, which obviously isn't advisable. When it comes to buying cars, I'd say feelings, the way in which the car can make you feel is a big thing, certainly for me. And whilst arguably this is the better car to drive, and it is a hot hatch, which I love hot hatches, if I'm honest, the Cupra makes me feel happier. I enjoyed the Cupra more. Yes, the touchscreen is so annoying, I want to hit it with a hammer sometimes, but that just, take that out of the equation. And the Cupra, that is the car that I'm more excited about getting into and driving. It's funny, isn't it, sometimes, how on paper, sometimes the better car isn't the better car, if that makes any kind of sense.
But now I'm in a predicament where we're heading back to have a chinwag about both these cars. And whilst I was in the S3, I pretty much had said hands down that I'd have that over this. But now driving this, I'm starting to change my mind, because, as I said, this is cheaper and I like to save money. I'm a savvy kind of guy, and you're getting more for your money as well, which again, for me, value for money is very important. Yes, okay, it's an SUV. I can sort of get over that point because it becomes a little bit more practical when you start having a small family. The S3 is quite capable of doing the same thing, but I find that this, for a longer term situation, will make more sense.
Right then, crunch time. I want to hear your thoughts first.
Right, so when you edit this together, because I'm not doing the edit, thankfully, I chose the S3 first because that is the car I would ultimately have.
Yeah.
Just from the ground off, because it's a hatchback.
Yep, I get that.
And it's not an SUV. So yeah, but the problem is, I feel I made a mistake, because getting into this, it's an awesome car, it really is.
Yeah.
It's got great character, like just from, because you turned it off when we swapped cars. As soon as you turn that on, the drama and the character comes out of it. So it's like you just open the glove box and it all just flows out for me. Whereas this, it's like, if you farted in it, it'd tell you off. It really would.
Yeah, it's crazy how you've got two cars that underneath are very similar.
Yeah.
But they've got completely different characters. The S3, for me, is the better car to drive.
Yeah, definitely.
Technically speaking. Yeah. But you can't really call it fun. And I know fast Audis aren't known for being fun. That can be thrilling.
Yeah.
But you kind of drive it with a bit of a serious face. And yes, you do kind of gurn when you gun it some.
Yeah.
But
and I think the problem with it is because it's an S3 and it's not an RS3, it's almost like they dial it back so much to make it so it's not like the RS3. And I think that's the thing that lets it down the most. It really does.
The S3 is very good at what it does. It's got the typical German efficiency. It's composed, very calculated. But whilst that is a good car to drive and it's solid as a rock,
definitely, 100%.
solid as this log we're sat on.
Yeah.
But the Cupra, you get in that, and as soon as you step in, it feels like more of an occasion. It's got a more interesting interior. It makes better noises. Okay, some of it may be audio trickery, but it just, that car to me, it seems it's got more character and it's got more of an occasion, which is weird because that's the kind of more practical family car. It's yeah.
But yeah, as you said about this thing handles.
Like that is better in the corners. It's got better tyres, better brakes, and of course it's got less weight.
It was evident as soon as I got out of that into this. You can tell, but you've got to give it some leeway. It's an SUV. It's going to be, it's heavier, so it's going to have those sort of traits that it won't share with this. But yeah, mate, honestly, it impresses me, and I was sort of contradicting myself a bit because I'd have a car like that because it's a hatchback, but it costs more. But then when I was driving it, I said I would have it over this. And then as soon as I got in this, I'd be like, but I can stomach it being an SUV because it's less money. You're getting more bang for your buck because it's more practical, and it's got more character to it.
It's more interesting.
And it looks great. Look at it.
Over the week, I've had both cars, That's definitely got more looks than the S3.
Yeah, I mean the colour that we've got lets it down a bit, but I mean the colour can be changed, can't it? Well, not now, but you can spec a different colour.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love it, honestly. And I said in the footage, I said it's great to see that Cupra is a performance brand on Seat. So the fact that they're creating a completely one-off body shell for a car that Seat doesn't actually already have, is mind-blowing. It really is, because everyone else is just sort of recycling stuff.
Yeah. Well, there we are then. I think that's quite a clear-cut conclusion and verdict.
And we both said that we wanted this to be the twin test where we both had the same opinion. And oh my God, thank God we do.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, a massive thank you to Chris, of course, for assisting me, and Dreams to Drive for also assisting, and also a massive thank you for Audi UK and Cupra UK for loaning me both cars for the week. And lastly, of course, thank you for you guys for watching this video, because without your views, these kind of things can't happen. So if you have enjoyed the video, then please like, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to check out Chris's channel as well, PocketRockets. I will put the link in the video description below. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.